Mam ogromną przyjemność powitać w aktualnościach filmowych Terry'ego Gilliama. Welcome to the program. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you for adding another syllable to my name, Gilliamem.
Terry'ego Gilliama, yes.
Yeah, excellent.
This is the magic of Polish language.
You're very generous. I've always been short, one syllable, I thought, but you gave it
It was
back.
in Poland, obviously. So let me start with asking about Wrocław, because it's not your first time here in Nowe Horyzonty Film Festival. It was 2011. They had a retrospective. What's your opinion of the atmosphere here?
I think they've been painting it since I was here. There's more painted buildings now. It's more color. And somehow maybe it's the song. It looks richer than it was when I was here before. Has it become richer?
We had some fans from European Union.
Bingo.
Maybe, yeah.
You mean United Kingdom paid for the paid for Wrocław.
And that's why they don't want to pay anymore.
Well, that's it. But I'm very happy we paid because it's a lovely city now. It's more beautiful. It's very nice.
It was the capital of culture a few years ago. Maybe that's why. But you had the first Polish public screening of the Man Who Killed Don Quixote. Yeah. How was it?
Well, nobody died. That was nice. There were no riots. It was very peaceful. People came out and seemed to. Well, we fooled them into thinking they had a good time. Mm-hmm. That's what we did.
That's the trick. That's the trick. Yeah.
They probably had a terrible time, but they don't know that. That's the important thing.
They were satisfied. So let me ask you, because we are just ahead of the Polish premiere of the film, which is described sometimes in the press and in the media like the most anticipated film of the cinema history. Was it any pressure for you? When you finally finished the film?
Well, no, it's when we started shooting. Mm-hmm. I mean, the first couple of weeks were terrible because I felt the weight of all of these people's expectations, and it's almost impossible. How can you make a film that's better than people's imagination of what it's going to be like? You can only disappoint people. Mm-hmm. So it was, for the first couple of weeks, it was just worrisome. But after a while, you just go to work and say, forget about them. That's their problem, not my problem. I just want to make a film that I like. Yeah. And in the end, I even satisfied my own expectations.
Wow. Because it was, sometimes this balloon of anticipation and expectations can be very heavy. But it took you some time to make this film. When you first thought of it, of making the story.
I mean, it began after I'd made The Adventures of Baron Munchausen, I said, what am I going to do next? Oh, let's do Don Quixote, because a lot of people have tried to make, there have been many films made of it, not very good. Orson Welles failed at his, and Orson Welles' film is wonderful because it's a ruin, it's not complete, so your imagination can finish what it was, and it always intrigued me. So I talked to my producer on Munchausen and said, I need $20 million. I've got two names. One is Quixote, one is Gilliam. And he said, you've got the money. And then I sat down and read the book. Most people don't read the book. People know about Don Quixote. Windmills, crazy old man, fat partner. The book is extraordinary. It is just an amazing book. And then I finished. It took me a couple of weeks to read it. And in the end, I realized there was no way to make the book. So how do you tell this story without being exactly a replication of the book? And then I started playing with a modern man who gets caught into it. Because in the book, it's Don Quixote in the 17th century, dreaming about the wonderful world of knights and maidens in the 12th century. And a modern audience, are they going to recognize the difference in costumes between the 17th century and the 12th century? No. So let's put a modern man in. And it grew out of that. And in the 29 years since I read the book, it's changed a lot. And it's changed a lot because each time I go back to try to make the film, I want to at least fool myself into thinking I'm doing something new and better and more interesting. And in the end, the film we finished is a very different film from the one I was shooting with Johnny Depp 20-some years ago. And it's a better film. And it's more about the world we're living in right now in a different way than it's not preaching, but it's talking about how people, how you perceive the world, how you misperceive the world, how you survive. It's also talking about films and what films do to people.
Yeah, and responsibility of a filmmaker
All of
who
that,
enters people's lives and then leave them.
Yep. It's about responsibility. In many ways, the things you do creatively can be damaging. They can be inspiring. They can be wonderful, but they can also throw lives upside down and inside out. And that was very important to try to deal with that. And so I think it's a much more, it's a better film about right now. It actually talks about many things in the world we're living in.
Yeah, and one would say that it was very nice of you to wait for Jonathan Pryce to get old enough to play Don Quixote. So let's talk about cast, because this is a wonderful cast: Rosie de Palma and Sergi Lopez, and of course the main three: Angelica, Adam Driver, and Jonathan Pryce. Yeah. I heard you said at the press conference in Cannes that Adam Driver was nothing like Toby. So what happened when you saw him for the first time? So what happened, and why did you decide to give him the part? He's fantastic, by the way, of course.
I think he's an absolutely extraordinary actor. We've only seen the tip of the iceberg. I think Quixote shows much more of what he's capable of than in all the other films he's done. But I met him, and I had pictures of, there was Johnny Depp in my head still. There were various other actors that I'd been thinking about using for years, and suddenly Adam came. He doesn't look like a movie star. He doesn't look like an actor. He looks like a real human being. And he's interesting. There's a genuine honesty inside this man, and he thinks, and he's cautious about the world. And it was a complete surprise when I met him, and I just liked him. I said, let's do it. Because part of it is me surprising myself. And this was a guy, not at all what I was thinking of. And suddenly the character became alive in a different way. Because one of the problems when you're spending as long as I have thinking about the film, you get trapped in ways of perceiving the different characters. And I'm constantly looking for the big surprise to change me, to wake me up, to say, oh, there's another way of doing it. And Adam is that other way. And when you see him in the film, because he's got to go from a character who at the beginning is a cynical asshole, frankly. I don't know what the Polish word for that is. Polish television, okay, whatever it is. And he's not a nice guy in any way. He's corrupted. But by the end, he's beautiful. I fall in love with him, and I'm not even gay.
Well, the same thing, or maybe the parallel things happens to the character played by Jeff Bridges in Fisher King, isn't it?
Yeah.
After the contact with this...
You put the finger on, I keep making the same film. Oh, no.
That's what your wife
My
told
wife
you.
says it always.
Yes, I've read that. She said it to you, so...
It's about redemption. Both characters are about redemption. People who do what they do for a living and the effect they've had on somebody else's life, and then and that effect can be horrible. In a sense, like Adam's character is a bit like Dr. Frankenstein. By putting this little shoemaker played by Jonathan Pryce in a movie, he created a monster, a madman, and it's his responsibility to deal with that.
When I saw Adam Driver riding the motorcycle, I remembered in your book, in your autobiography, you were remembering the time when you were traveling through Spain from Gibraltar on this motorbike that was not that good of a mean of transport.
Well, it's about, even a motorbike. This bike in Spain was going to be wonderful. I was going to have such wonderful adventures on it. In fact, it was a nightmare. And that's in a sense what happens with Adam when he goes back to the village he made his film in 10 years ago. He thought they were going to love him. No, he ruined many lives.
So how to make a great actor, but Welsh actor who doesn't speak Spanish, play this character so good. He's a great actor, but also he needs a great director. That the Spanish people say that this is the best Don Quixote they've seen. I
know. It is quite amazing. So you don't have to be transgender to play a transgender character. You don't have to be Spanish to play a Spanish icon. It's about acting. It's about embodying the essence of the character. And Jonathan, literally had been bothering me for almost 15 years to play the part, and I kept hiding from him when you knock on the door.
Because you wanted Michael Palin to do that.
No, it wasn't even that. I didn't want Jonathan to do it because I love Jonathan. We had a great time working together, but he wasn't right. I still had Jean Rochefort in my head, and I was looking everywhere but at Jonathan. But eventually he became old enough. His eyebrows became thick enough that he was now, I didn't have to spend a fortune on making him up to look like an old man. The one thing we do is we give him a wonderful nose. He wears his new nose beautifully. Yeah. And he said, well, I played a Spanish-speaking guy. I played Juan Perón in Evita, so I can do accents. Yeah. And I was happiest because my Spanish editor, who has been making wonderful Spanish films for years, when she first saw the first assembly, and she was putting the scenes together, she said, Jonathan, nobody could be a better Quixote. And that was really important because he was having such fun. Finally, he was given the part. And he just was like a kid playing. Every day he would ad-lib new things. He would steal moments. He sparkles. And when you've got actors that are really enjoying what they're doing, you can see it on screen. They come alive.
So let's talk about Angelica, Dulcinea. How did you find, first, the character? Because it was also, well, probably difficult to find this female character, the equivalent for Dulcinea. Yeah. And this is Angelica. Yeah. So in the writing process, and then how did you find Joana Ribeiro?
I mean, well, that's one of the things, first, the writing process. In our earlier versions, we had never solved the problem of Dulcinea, who has to be, well, in the book, she may be a whore. We don't know. She is not the dream girl that Quixote thinks. And we needed that. And again, she's a product of being in a little film, a little girl from a village, and she's 15 years old then, and she's full of life and sparkle and joy. And she's in a movie. I'm a movie star. And she goes off to try to be a real movie star, and her life goes upside down, backwards, and everything. And Joana Ribeiro we had to, because we'd become a co-production with Poland. Portugal.
I wish.
Yeah, one day, we had to start working with some Portuguese actors, and I wanted a girl who was Latin to play the part, and there was a certain girl who was quite well known in Portugal as an actress, there was a lot of pressure to use her, and no. And then it was, in fact, one of the production assistants says, there's this other girl, you ought to look at her. And it was Joanna, and I had a cup of coffee with her. We talked for about an hour, and at the end of it, you've got the part. She's intelligent. She has these incredible eyes that tell the story. And I've gotten more and more, as I've gotten older, much more instinctive about actors. And my stomach said, this is the girl. And that was it. It was very funny, because she actually did a screen test afterwards, and it wasn't very good. I ignored the screen test.
But you already knew that you had your
this is the girl for it. And she had only done television and a couple little movies. So she didn't have the kind of experience that the others in the film have had. And in fact, at that time, the Portuguese producers said, why her? You know, she's done nothing. Because she's right, that's why. And she had, by having to play a 15-year-old and then a 25-year-old who is more like a 35-year-old girl who's been through really difficult situations. I thought we were going to need two actresses. We didn't.
She pulled it off. She's great, yeah.
Yeah, and I fell in love with her as a 15-year-old girl because she's so full of life. And then the later iteration of her is a girl who's really been hammered, and she's tough, and it's shocking almost how hard she became, but she's still wonderful.
At what point you decided that the Toby character, he's going to be director who wanted the 10 years before the action starts, was very idealistic, and he wanted to make artistic movies, and then 10 years after, he's in advertisements.
That was actually at the beginning, even the Johnny Depp character was like that, but he didn't have the backstory of having made a film 10 years earlier, and that was a big leap, because I've always felt so many directors I know with talent start out and make their first film and it's wonderful and you think they're going to continue to make really interesting films, and instead they go the other route into commercials where you get paid a lot of money and you're selling dog food. And
it's corruptive.
It's corrupted totally, because it's like the betrayal. When you're a talented person, you've got this gift and then you betray it just to sell dog food? Come on. I get angry with that. Yeah. So he had to be punished. And that was, but it was quite late it was probably only a couple of years ago, we came up with the idea of having seen his early film. And he had made this thing and seeing him when he was young. And again, Adam, 10 years earlier, is like a different character. His face looks different. Everything about him is different. And that was a big, big moment when we made that leap, because you get to see these two characters, young, full of energy, hope, optimism, life, and then you see them 10 years later corrupted.
At the press conference in Cannes Film Festival, the moderator asked the actors, how was it to work with Terrym Gilliam? And you complained that no one ever asked you how is it to work with Terrym Gilliam. So I will take the risk and ask you how it is to work with Terrym Gilliam for so many years.
With this guy, he's impossible. He's miserable. He spends his whole time being miserable. I don't know. I really don't know. One of the things I do, I think, when I'm making a film, I suddenly escape from Terrym Gilliam. I'm too busy working, and Terrym Gilliam disappears, and it's just a guy trying to get through each day. And it's maybe one reason I make films is to escape myself. and I spend my time on the set. We're laughing all the time. I'm trying to keep everybody happy. And so I'm probably the best actor in the entire operation, because I go back to my hotel room at the end of the day.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
All day. Like right now, I'm pretending to be having a good time. I'm having a terrible time.
Me too.
Yeah, good.
So what's your next project?
I literally don't know what I'm doing next, and it's probably the first time in a very long time I felt this. So it's either very exciting or really depressing, depending how you look at it.
So we will keep our fingers crossed that you will get a chance to escape from Terrym Gilliam once.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your time.